I'll do it.
Right, okay. We have two speakers for the last session. We have Eamon, two people who have really dedicated themselves to the Cyber Academy for many years. Our first up is Eamon. We're very lucky in Scotland to be so integrated with Police Scotland, and they're so proactive. And then we have Basil on next. So,
Hey, do you want to go now? No. Good afternoon, everybody. Eamon Keane is my name. I work with Cybercrime Scotland. I've been associated with Bill for 4 or 5 years, and I'm part of the academy. I see some ex-employees here. I see a lot of friends. I see some colleagues. I'm going to give you a whistle-stop tour in regards to what's been reported to us, what we're being tasked with to investigate. And it's probably going to be parts of it very boring for you in regards to the generality of it, but it's such a dynamic space for us, and it's such a dynamic space for Police Scotland. And what I'm going to cover over the next couple of half an hour or so is, if we'll get my clicker going right, is I'm going to talk about the national and global perspective in regards to cybercrime. I think 50% of the criminality responsible for cyber attacks in the UK are coming from outside this jurisdiction. I want to speak about the excitement and initiatives that are going on in Scotland, slightly parochial about Scotland, and where we've got a great collaborative family cyber team that I'd like to extend and encourage a little bit more. I want to speak about LE partners and some of the work we're doing on a global scale. I'll speak about incident planning and response, because traditionally the police are good at that. I come from a background in regards to criminal investigations, murder, rape, and actually that's for me a lot easier than managing some of the that golden hour in a major incident in regards to when you've got such a demand on your time. And that's very much replicated in what we're seeing in regards to the cyber world. I'll speak about a toolkit we've developed. I'll speak about CM Technologies and SOC in regards to Bill. We've been working with Bill in regards to the development of a SOC within Napier, and I suppose how we're going to roll that out, extending that a little bit more. I'll talk about prevention and again, some of the stuff that's going on in Scotland's future. Against the backdrop of falling statistics, so crime in the real world for us is coming down. Now, I'm not naive in regards to a certain apathy about that, in regards to, what's the point in reporting of it? But statistically, crime in the real world is coming down. Whereas, I see that transitioning to online. You don't need a shotgun to rob 50 grand anymore. And that's what's being reported to us right now. So where are we going? And if technology is serving me right now, I should be able to play this video, Adrian. Can we hear that?
Crime and punishment on the street are plain for all to see. Online, it's much less visible, but according to a new report, it's every bit as financially damaging.
The amount of cybercrime is increasing at such an exponential rate, it almost feels like we're swimming against the tide. It's important for nations around the world to begin to track and record the number of cybercrime incidents they're seeing, because we can't actually address the problem until we actually know how big the issue is.
Cybercrime costs £266 billion each year, 0.8% of the global economy. That's just less than the drugs trade or piracy. If cybercrime were a country, its economy would rank 27th in the world, higher than Singapore, Austria and South Africa. The UK ranked 5th in the G20 countries most affected, we're £6.8 billion worse off each year. And the report says that online crime costs 150,000 jobs in Europe. For individual businesses, cybercrime can be catastrophic. Critical power supplies in
I'm going to move on. In regards to, I would say actually that figure has overtaken the drugs trade in regards to what cybercrime is being yielded from a UK perspective. And again, sometimes it's a very difficult one to actually evaluate, a difficult one to price. And in regards to that's an old figure in regards to 27 billion. I think that came out from Deloitte and Touche about 3 to 4 years ago. I think it's difficult for government to put a cost on what cybercrime is costing to the UK. And where we get the figures in regards to, well, it depends on what source you use, in regards to 1 million victims a day, we're just seeing an increased, thankfully, an increased engagement with law enforcement in regards to the nebulous that is cybercrime, right across the board in regards to so many different things. Our challenge will always be in regards to our forensic examinations. The Internet of Things, we are so interconnected now. And I use that analogy in presentations in regards to reflect on what you have in your home now as opposed to 10 years ago. That is mirrored very much so in every investigation we have. And the task for us to stay ahead and make sure that our backlogs, because the corporate risk around our backlogs in regards to, say, something like paedophilic behaviour is significant for the new Chief Constable. But again, we're getting this in, and this is about 60% of our work in regards to forensic examinations. How do we deliver that? Across our 9 forensic teams from Inverness, across the Central Belt, down as far as Dumfries. Ever growing, and again, transcending all criminality. And I suppose, where are the areas of growth for us? And you could probably answer these questions for me in regards to the fact that what we see is a tremendous increase in the proliferation of malware and acquisitive crime. Generally, I think the 2 motives for crime are for sexual gratification or greed, and that's manifests itself in the move to digital crime. The growing area for business will be indecent images of children and sexual offending. And again, that's a challenge for Police Scotland and a challenge for law enforcement worldwide. Whilst at the same time, we have a huge demand of resources in regards to antisocial behaviour. And when that manifests itself maybe in something like a suicide. And that's when the tragic circumstances come in, right across to cyber terrorism, radicalisation online. And I suppose what's happened in Paris recently, we again have to protect you in the real world, but ever so much in the virtual world. And we need to protect our shores in the UK from the plague that is cyber terrorism. So again, you're all involved in this arena, but kind of sometimes people talk about just breaking up the definition of cybercrime to cyber-enabled crime or cyber-dependent crime. Increasing for us is that digital footprint in regards to a digital footprint in a criminal investigation. And then the other part of this will be the use of the internet to facilitate such things as drug dealing and people smuggling. That's an increased people trafficking, because we're using voice over protocols. We're using apps that are encryption. We are reflecting on 1980s policing. And what we really want is a mixture in the team in regards to young professionals who have come through the various to conduct that criminality. So that's something we have to stay on top of. That's me in the middle. But cyber academies, various academic institutions to come and join us. Never in any other area of policing do we need that blend of kind of inquisitive technical capability mirrored and complemented by the traditional detective. And that's what I use. We deliver, and in conjunction with our partners in the regional organised crime units, as part of the National Crime Agency, that is the National Cybercrime Unit, we have 9 regions, including Scotland. So we speak on a daily basis in regards to the type of crimes that people are, that the teams are investigating across the UK. And there is our colleagues in the National Cybercrime Unit. Just recently, exercise Silver Pilot. It's on the NCA's website there in regards to we facilitated an exercise with Bulgaria, Georgia, Lithuania, Moldova, Romania, and Ukraine. Now, someone might say, God, we suspect that that's where a lot of our traffic would come from. Not without foundation, but this is us working with law enforcement colleagues in regards to a simulated exercise around a cybercrime exercise of various forms. And you're all aware of the breaches, and I'll rattle through this fairly quickly, but in regards to most interesting talk. I'll probably put our cause, and I'm sure I'm speaking to who in the audience is, how many people in the audience are working in the security industry or working in the security field? Everybody. So again, we're preaching to the converted a wee bit here. So probably, I think for talk, and for me, going out to business and say, you need to report this to law enforcement, we cannot legislate for what we don't know, and we can't kind of influence those upstairs, but talk and Dido Harding did a great job for cybercrime. Ashley Madison. Again, I also, who was a friend who was on the Ashley Madison website. Moving on quickly. Just recently on the 6th, BBC were taken down by allegedly anti-ISIS hackers in regards to just showing their capability. The Interview, you're well familiar with that. Again, these are just, again, Sony. And even we can go into locally. Is there anybody here from Edinburgh City Council? Again, suffered a DOS attack. Sorry for asking that question. And then even more locally, the hairdresser in Glasgow. Again, a ransomware case in regards to encrypting his data. So it's happening in Scotland. This was West Lothian. This was an email that was sent out by West Lothian in regards to, oh, we're going to give you some money back. And again, I suppose an awful lot of people clicked on that link, and suddenly their machine was infected. And I think our colleagues in West Lothian IT only discovered when there was a lot of undeliverable emails came back and says, oh God, what have we got? And again, Scott was here earlier on in regards to the RBS. And again, how much did that cost RBS? So I suppose there's some recent examples of just it's happening in Scotland right now. It's being reported to us. And I suppose, again, I will highlight cyber terrorism and again, the radicalisation of our young online. I'll play a little video just to kind of gives it some perspective in regards to the move towards serious and organised crime. I mean, I was hoping to play a video. Adrian? No, sorry. We'll play it later on.
Who's playing?
Doesn't matter. Sorry, nothing. Don't like pregnant pauses in regards to giving a lecture. Anyway, what we're seeing in regards to the inquiries that we're certainly involved in now. Yes, I think the NCA said the average age of a hacker that they're engaged with is about 17 or 18. But what I'm seeing and what the team are seeing is an increased amount of serious and organised crime. Hence the wee slide there. The growing cadre of hacking groups that were identified or we're identifying and we're involved with in regards to the investigations we have. Anonymous, Ludsec, Lizard Squad, the New World Hacking Team believed to be responsible for the BBC takedown, the Armada Collective, the Syrian Electronic Army. And actually, I would say that's getting even increasingly larger. So we have these groups which are absolutely subversive, causing a lot of problems for a lot of companies and a lot of organisations across the UK. And it's the automated attacks that you're well familiar with in regards to, let's just launch that botneted activity and let's see where the vulnerabilities are. So what we've seen for 2016, in regards to some of the stuff I've highlighted earlier on. Again, malware targeting businesses with increased frequency and increased sophistication. And I think the code and the binary in regards to, well, is that seen in VirusTotal? Are the security vendors seeing it? And I think it's becoming ever increasingly technical and more complicated, and it's getting through. Network intrusion, you're all aware of that. The enablers of cyber-dependent crime in regards to money laundering, a growth area for us. Cybercrime as a service, and then obviously targeted disruption to UK network systems. And we saw the Janet network recently, again, an intrusion on that, and more examples. Again, I mentioned some of these earlier on. These are some of the investigations we have in regards to Aberdeen Council. Again, is there a vulnerability there, I wonder, in public service? I think we're highlighting that, the fact that are we investing enough in security in public service? I would say we are the poor relation absolutely in regards to the private sector, in regards to having that competence and capability within our teams. And you're all familiar with, well, what's next on the block? Shell shock, heartbleed, poodle, Drydex. And it's, like I say, we have broiler rooms of young, highly intelligent, technical graduates coming out of universities, going in and being recruited by organised crime gangs to do the very things I've been talking about. The Angler kit in regards to one of the most popular exploit kits going, and again, you're all practitioners in this area, so you will be very familiar with a lot of these slides. For me, and I'm sure my colleagues will attest in regards to CryptoLock or Telsa Crypt, we're seeing this is being reported to us from businesses. One example there recently in regards to a business with about 300 employees, just one or two people working in security, and sadly somebody in admin clicked on that payload, and again, just pixelated in front of them. Give me 60 bitcoins, and we'll free up your data. And if you don't pay within 12 hours, well, we double the price. And that company had no backup. He had no kind of cyber security strategy in regards to its ability to do business. And we're seeing that in an increasing level. And if 80% of our GDP within Scotland is SMEs, where does that leave us? So this is why we go out and try and encourage the SMEs in regards to, well, maybe is this something that we can hopefully develop from a point of view of something like a Scottish Cybercrime Centre. More about that later on. The 5 stages of crypto ransomware, again, the installation right through to the extortion. And we kind of sometimes we were looking at that in regards to, well, what's the difference between demanding 5 grand or say, sorry, I'll not say pick on Standard Life here, or give us $500,000, or we're going to take your system completely out, as opposed to kidnapping a drug dealer. Not that I'm going to point to Bill being a drug dealer. But again, the same principle applies. In regards to that money is going into organised crime. A backup on cybercrime as a service with support. Oh, phone us for technical support in regards to. Wonderful. Yes, phone this number and we'll tell you how to launch that Angler exploit kit at whatever business you want to launch it. We are having some success, thankfully, and the gap between the capability is absolutely within law enforcement in the UK. It's just we haven't got enough resources, I would say. Actually, is this going out live? I hope, Chief Constable, I hope you didn't see that. But anyway, that's a strategic decision for the new Chief Constable. But yes, I would absolutely like a lot more technical investigators to service that. You get one chance to make a first impression. And I think in regards to reporting cybercrime, I need to give out to the business community a sense of that when you engage with the team and you engage with the organisation, that something is going to be done about that. And whether that is the top-end DDoS attack or that's your children being stalked online, it's the same thing. You need to give back that victim service. So this was our own website, DDoS again. We suffer ourselves. And it's not just because it was the police ones that we identified the culprit. No, it was the evidence came to us. This was an individual we were involved with in regards to Jake Davis, living in that gorgeous remote island up in Shetland, but yet was part of the anonymous Ludsec group that was responsible for taking down Sony and the PlayStation that cost the company 191 million. But again, he was one of 7. And I mentioned earlier on in regards to acquisitive crime and this type of social engineering in regards to you getting a phone call. Hi, it's Adrian here from the RBS. We just see they've had some insider information in regards to some sort of some activity in your account, but they'll say, can you move X amount of money? We suspect there's something malicious going on. Can you move 5 grand to another account, first generation account we'll call it. It's moved maybe to a second generation account and then it's emptied. And this is a difficult one for us. And there's, you know, that suspect was arrested thankfully and was responsible for about 60 million. That was a team actually, an organised crime gang from the south of Glasgow. What else have we been involved in? And I suppose this is when I spoke about earlier on in regards to taking it back from business into your personal lives in regards to, this is young Daniel Perry in regards to, he formed a relationship with a 13-year-old, 14-year-old, I think it was Jody from Alabama, and they developed this relationship online where they started sharing, I'd say some intimate images for want of a better word. And when it was revealed that Jody was an organised crime gang, and they said, give me X amount of money from sextortion perspective, young Daniel felt that sadly he couldn't turn to somebody and report it and took his own life. Thankfully, the investigation has identified the individuals responsible for that and they've been arrested and charged. But I just wanted to highlight in regards to what's fallen onto our desk in regards to allocating resources in regards to the sad side of life online. And what else we are doing? We're employing covert internet investigators, thankfully. We're out there in online forums, trained individuals, authorised independently to take on the persona of somebody who may be 13 or 14 with a view to identifying crime gangs in regards to paedophilia, principally, but also for drugs, for firearms, for other aspects of criminality. And these are some of the websites that we may be involved in. And again, this is some of the activities, some of the significant convictions we've had in regards to paedophilia online and using technology to identify, criminal activity. And I suppose what I'm kind of moving on from some of the enforcement side, I think I'd like to take people from a point of view of that Your digital security now is, for me, moving towards, it's as important as your personal security. How would you look after your own house? How would you look after your route home? And I think we're going to have to get into a kind of a bit like, say, drink driving, a bit like antisocial behaviour. We're going to have to encourage people to apply that level of security to your online. We are doing so much online, and it's not a matter for me, if it's actually going to happen to you. So, from a point of view of policing, we're going to have to, we're taking initiatives in regards to a little bit more proactive work. So, working with the ISPs, and Operation Torvar was an example of that in regards to Game Over Zeus. And I'm sure, Alan, I'm sure some of the lads in the financial sector will be completely aware of in regards to, well, that's Bogachev and the damage that Zeus and its many forms did. That was Operation Torvar, working with our colleagues in the NCCU, and Operation Dermic was another one in regards to identifying the facilitators of black shades in regards to that was used as a remote access tool. And again, we identified the individuals involved in the purchase and the application or the deployment of black shades as a cybercrime as a service. And I think we're going to have to spend more time and be a little bit more active in that area in regards to creating honeypots to try and take in that malicious software that's out there in such a large scale. Interesting, some of the comments from some of the individuals that we engage with in various forms. Now, some of it was obviously there was detentions and arrests, but equally there was a knock on the door to say that, well, why did you use that tool? Why are you using that tool? I suppose we could ask that question to some of the students in the audience. Why are we using a Raspberry Pi? What are the ethical issues around what we're teaching in? And it's the deployment of that in regards to how you use it, but more about that later on. So, cyber resilience through preparation, and just this is from a law enforcement perspective in regards to incident management. And I think this is more directed towards those SMEs or those smaller organisations who have no security individuals on their team to apply that strategy. And these are just some of the highlighted things that we will use and we will apply to the various investigations we're tasked with. And to me, failure to prepare is preparing to fail. And there's nothing like running that exercise well beforehand in regards to, like who's going to be responsible for the incident management? Who is going to take up the goal position to direct all the people that are coming to you in that golden hour, the first hour? What do I do that? What do I do that? What do I do that? Now, I know within the larger organisations, we are running those, and actually you're mandated to run those pre-planned exercises. But for me, the strategy or the investigative strategy that you apply in regards to incident management is very important. Your communication strategy. You're taken down. You've no way of, your system's been taken down. You've no way to communicate with your internal or your external staff or your external customers. Have you, so if we try and test this in regards to, well, maybe, hold on, that infrastructure is infected. Do we need to create another one? Your incident manager and the team. And you need somebody in there who's suitably trained in regards to manage the many strands of that inquiry. But the most important person, I think, on his or her left-hand side is somebody who's got the technical understanding in regards to what type of incident that is and what type of attack. The logistics. Have you a room within your organisation that you're ready to adopt as an incident room? Have you got communications within that room? And I ask you to take that back into your various realms or various spheres of where you work in regards to incident planning. Have you got gold, silver and bronze in regards to a structure of command? Bronze being at the ground, silver, and then obviously gold, developing the strategy. And I think this is what I would advocate in regards to, this is what we're seeing now in regards to the layered approach in regards to incident management. And again, kind of maybe doing the promotional bit for the security companies in the audience in regards to, absolutely, I think you need a third eye looking at what's going on within your infrastructure, what's going in within your enterprise, and how much you want to invest in that will reduce the risk. And I suppose, for me, that's making cyber the issue before it becomes the issue. And I think if we looked at the CEO of TalkTalk, maybe having a couple of pre-planned exercises may have helped there. Having a communication strategy, because I don't think the girl knew what was going on, actually what was going on behind her. So again, advocating a little bit of planning. And I suppose be the hunter. And I know you've had various speakers earlier on in regards to the different levels of engagement. And I suppose this is us being proactive in regards to, what is attacking our systems? Who is doing recon on our systems? Who's looking at us? And that can do everything from social media to your packet analysis. And again, I suppose, speaking about CM technology, speaking about SOCs, what else do we need in there to make sure that we're protecting our organisation? And I suppose this is it now in regards to the layered approach for me and the evolution in regards to the various attacks that are coming. So seeing everything, fearing nothing. And for me, it's in regards to, again, the full picture. Because I don't think, the traditional, as you've already had from various speakers in regards to making sure that we can hopefully have some form of holistic form around that in regards to your organisation. And that's great when you have a security team, highly qualified in regards to, and we're making that investment into that. But what if you haven't? And that's what we're increasingly finding in a lot of SMEs within Scotland who are coming to us saying, I've been the victim of ransomware. What do I do? I've no backup. How do I decrypt? Telsacrypt 128-bit. That's where all my purchase order, that's where all my customers are. What can I do in there? And it surprised me every week in regards to the lack of engagement to a third party or a managed service in regards to how much you're treating your security in regards to the data that you protect. But you're all from the security industry, so I'm preaching to converted here. But anyway. So a wee toolkit that we've developed over, and this is for me in regards to normally our traditional investigations, and it's a drop-down menu in regards to what we do. And we make sure that we tick the box in regards to all this. From securing logs to statements to, we don't want to come in image servers, we can come in image servers. The size now, we don't want to take your key personnel away from providing your security. We are looking at a toolkit in regards to, Basil will speak about traditional forensics, wet forensics, but we're looking now at improving our capability to go in and image maybe some, say, email files where the email was the payload was the PDF and that. So we'll just take the PST files and that's our evidence. So we're developing a toolkit in regards to having a better capability not to impede on you doing your business. And this is something that we're involved in. So, all doom and gloom. We've had the lunch. You're dead quiet. Is there any good news out there? I would like to think so. I'm not going to go into the reporting of incidents. I'll speak about how the landscape has changed for us, as I have done in the previous 15 minutes. I've spoken about the policing structure, our engagement with the NCCU and the regional hubs on a regular daily basis. EC3, our retired police officers just got the head of EC3's job, Stevie Wilson, which is a great, it's a great indictment for me in regards to what's the noise and the activity that's going on in Scotland. We're hopefully going to start launching not a word of employing, but recruiting cyber specials, because there's no area of business like policing that we need that skill from industry to come in and assist us in these technical investigations. Bill and the Cyber Academy, well, very familiar with Bill and the great work that's going on. And again, in regards to it, we do a lot of police training with Bill and other academic institutions within Scotland. There's the Cyber Academy. Again, I think we have a very good small family in regards to the collaboration between industry and law enforcement and academia moving forward. And God, Bill, we can't mention that, can we? A Scottish Cybercrime Centre. And that would be my vision actually in regards to have a virtual and physical building where maybe on the fourth floor, maybe on one floor we have industry, service industry, service SMEs in regards to digital investigations or criminal attacks on SMEs. Academia on another floor, research and development. We need to have an investigative capability on that on that building. And that where I would like, again, to have academia in there and some people seconded maybe from industry, servicing Scotland in regards to Growing Scotland PLC. I mentioned that just because I anticipated some students here just in regards to what I mentioned earlier on in regards to the ethical and moral evaluation in regards to applying your skills. And I suppose for me in regards to, I highlight here a couple of websites in regards to bug bounties. Anybody familiar with bug bounty? well done. It's just not widely across the board in regards to encouraging those people, our students and our graduates, in regards to identifying the bugs and systems and the money that can, obviously, you can be rewarded from it. I have to mention that again, Cyber Essentials and CESG in regards to the 10 steps to cybersecurity and the Cyber Essentials programme in regards to making sure that if we do some of the, I think there's 10 points, but that's just 5 in regards to firming up in regards to getting an accreditation, which actually reduces the cost of your insurance, but also ensures that, well, you have a level of very good security around your digital footprint within companies. I'll highlight CISP, and if you're interested in this and you're not a member of the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Partnership, we have a Scottish node within that. It's pretty dynamic in receiving the latest threats and viruses, codes in regards to what's happening out there. And I would encourage you to become a member of that if you're not already there, in regards to receiving real-time intelligence. And that's me. Please do. Play that video.
Okay, sorry to be that guy, but somebody has to ask whether the police really needs the new, what's it called, investigative powers bill.
Oh, great question.
I haven't finished. On balance, maybe you need the powers, but does it worth it compared to the risk of misuse?
What do you think?
Well, I think it's irrelevant. I'm asking you because you're in the field. I'm just an external observer.
I've actually just finished that book. So, no, that's a very good question in regards to, do we need any more legislation for what was happening in regards to the current landscape for policing? And I would say no. The Ripple legislation is hot topic again because of the recent terrorist attacks. And it's amazing how the landscape kind of changes every now and again in regards to when Snowden came out and people were saying, oh my God, that's a complete invasion of our human rights. And then when we saw the attacks in regards to Paris and we saw Charlie Hebdo, people were saying, well, hold on, I've nothing to hide. You know, if you're looking at my traffic, God, you know, what's the... So in regards to my attitude to this would be that I know when I need to look into your private life for a criminal investigation, it has to be authorised by an independent authority. I have to justify it, it has to be necessary, it has to be proportionate, and it has to be legal. And I have to account that to the nth degree. So, in regards to the RIPA legislation and the RIPA Scotland legislation, I think to get the level of request or authorisation to look into what you're doing in your private life means that you are up to no good if you're coming across our radar. The widespread surveillance of traffic coming in between maybe the Five Eyes is another issue. Now, Bill is probably, having sat and advised the parliamentary committee recently, is probably a better person to answer that question. But that's me from a policing perspective, if I've answered that question for you.
Bill's keeping quiet.
Bill, quiet? No.
Yeah, I'm purely a techno geek. I can answer it for myself, but not for society.
I'm not entirely convinced about the safeguards because just last week we were hearing that there was a police force in England that was investigating somebody for some sort of internal misdemeanor or something with the employer or something, and they actually used RIPA to snoop on his emails with his lawyer. That was on the news. That was on the news. Yeah.
Number one, do we believe everything we do in the news?
Well,
no, but I accept in regards to the circumstances of that case. I'm not trying to justify that if they used RIPA, we don't know. Was that a person taking confidential data away from a police force that may compromise the national security of this country? I don't know. Some people will have a view on Snowden in regards to the fact that, you know, he's put millions and thousands of documents in Pastebin and he's compromised national security for UK PLC. Again, it depends in regards to how you feel about that. But some people will be. And more so, I get a sense of the fact that, well, hold on, with all that's going on out there in regards to, you know, how can law enforcement and police actually, you know, to keep a competent surveillance on all the traffic that's going on in that digital world out there in regards to, can we do that? Just back to, you know. Question, sorry.
So with the equivalent of old crime and new crime being cyber, if, say, for a long time ago you used to go for a protest and you'd walk down the street and you'd end up closing the street, can a DDoS attack be potentially seen as the same kind of thing? If somebody is protesting outside of a shop, they also take their website offline at the same time.
A very good question, and I would say, have you? We are very much there to enforce the law. We investigate crimes and we report it to you as the Procurator Fiscal if you want to take any action. We just report the circumstances. It's the prosecutor who will make a decision about. Is that a breach of the Criminal Misuse Act? That you've launched an attack on my website and you've taken that down? You've intruded into my... Is that a criminal act? I'm throwing that out there. Do you think somebody should be accountable for?
Depends. If I have voted, I may have voted between my friends and we decided that it's a good idea to take your website down.
Well,
Same way
okay.
People strike and take.
We're into the ethical issues here in regards to, it's just like what we're teaching our students, or we're working in an environment where you have permission, or you're working as a pen tester, you have that piece of paper to go and attack that system. But you're breaking the law. And I stand before you as the policeman making no apologies in regards to the fact that if you've impeded on my, you've committed an act against the Computer Misuse Act, and we're moving towards now in regards to possession of that exploit kit without justification is in fact a breach of the Computer Misuse Act.
I guess the example would be if you're standing outside of a shop.
Yeah, sorry.
You've stopped customers going into the shop. So would that equivalent be, I guess, a trespass?
Kind of getting into a little bit of civil legislation there, whereas I'll differentiate that between, okay, you're standing outside your shop, you're not letting people lawfully pass to go in and trade. If you're taking that into the virtual world in regards to the fact that you're launching X amount of traffic towards a website to take it down, that's actually that's a crime. That's taken down. That's a Computer Misuse Act. Is that no, I'm not answering your question.
I guess another equivalent would be a student protest where they occupy say the finance building. All of a sudden, the university can no longer function as such, and that's their that is their protest. The equivalent being that the students all get together and go, right, everybody hit refresh at this time.
That's a really nice question you come up with in regards to, no, but I mean the difficulty in answering that in regards to where it will encroach onto civil legislation and where it will encroach onto criminal legislation. And I suppose sometimes in regards to Occupy, you saw recent incidents in regards to Occupy Scotland where certain areas were taken over. Was that necessarily breaking the law, or was it just acceptable behaviour? Whereas opposed to if you're launching an attack on somebody's website, it's specific in regards to it's a breach of the criminal legislation. We investigated and reported to the fiscal in regards to whether that person wants to do any work. What's the difference between what Anonymous or Ludsec did in regards to Sony in regards to launching and taking their system down?
I guess the people would be known.
Yeah, well.
I think you've also got the issue with the likelihood of a denial of service attack against a website. And with the analogy of a protest, is that every single person in that protest is willing and a willing party of that protest. Whereas the denial of service attack, there could be hundreds of thousands of unknown and unwilling victims of that denial of service attack going towards that one website. So you can't really say that a denial of service attack is similar to a protest where all parties agree to it.
Good, very good question though. Again, it's a difficult one in regards to, because it's broaching into technically civil legislation. And again, a lot of people will be, the Computer Misuse Act is, okay, we're talking 19th century policing for 21st century crimes. Is it fit for purpose? Is it meeting what's happening out there at the moment? And people would say no. I mean, it's 1980. so old already. Anyway, that's enough. No more. Sorry, that's enough for that. I don't think there's any more questions, Adrian. Thank you very much. No, sorry,
You
I'll
cannot
take.
get away that
I'll,
easy. Does
I'll
anybody,
take questions.
I'll ask. Does anybody have any more questions for him?
I'll take questions, no problem.
Even
from me?
Yeah.
Basil, I'm delighted to take a question from you. I'll pick up with my turn. Thank you.
Any other questions? No. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Will.
Okay, so our last speaker is Basil. And Basil's going to recap, I think, a lot of what was said today.
So this is the yeah.
Okay, so I'll let Basil.
So do we have no, not microphone. The clicker.
Yeah.
Is it working?
Just use
Ah.
forward and back.
Okay, thanks. No. Anybody hear me? Everybody can hear me down there? Good. So my name is Vasilis, or Basil for easier. I'm a computer forensics consultant. I'm self-employed, and since last year I've been working with Bill with the Cyber Academy as an associate. First of all, I have to say I always enjoy Imon's presentation. He always has something very interesting to bring to the pool. Oops, sorry. So I'm going to start from where Imon actually finished. There was a very big interesting question about if a DDoS attack can be legal, or if some things that we consider with regards to hacking could be legal. Well, this is something that has bothered me myself. And one of the things I was considering, one of my New Year's resolutions, was actually to hack QuickFeed. I'm sorry, you cannot arrest me because I said that. I have to hack them first. And the reason is that for 4 or 5 years, I've been trying to remove my email from their mailing lists. And after I have unsubscribed more than 10 times, my email somehow finds itself in the same list, the same company. So I think at some point it's my right to protect myself, and if it means that I have to go into their computers and remove it myself, okay, it should be justifiable. It's called, the way I see it from my point of view, it's self-defense. I mean, why does it make sense that I can kill someone on self-defense and it's a crime to go into somebody's computer and remove my email? Think about it. And yes, what Imon said is that Computer Misuse Act is an old act. I'm sorry. Is an old act, is a very old law, and it needs to be updated. And how we came to that act and how we came to this legislation is also a very interesting trip that we are going to go through here. A few things. One of the things that we discussed with Bill, is it okay to say it, Bill, about the society? Yes, last summer we had a meeting for introducing a digital forensics and incident response society. It has been stayed to that until this point, but very soon we're going to take the next steps and formally organizing this body. Keep your eyes on the website of the Cyber Academy because all the updates will be there. So I've got a few things here. Yeah, another thing, Bill, is that the next event, it would be good if you could reserve a few seats for students and advertising to students.
They're all back this week.
Yes, I know, but it came up with a couple of people that actually, you know, they had to be on a waiting list. They didn't know if they could join. And something I've mentioned about the police before, actually, from my experience, because I'm working for the dark side. I'm working for lawyers. Okay, so I'm the guy who's going to go to the defense of people who are watching child pornography or commit other crimes. actually the police reports and the police investigations are good. Most of the times the problems, well, last 2 years, all of the time, the problems was actually what the procurator fiscals did with those reports. And my understanding is that most of the time the prosecutors do not understand what the police reports say, and they're not able, they don't have the skills to make a judgment call as to someone should be prosecuted and what is the possibility of actually convicting someone based on that report. Because as Imon said, the police is not prosecuting people. They make a report, they give the prosecutor, they have to make a decision. And sometimes they make the wrong decision. And this is one of the biggest problems right now. Now, I'm going to start my presentation as it was intended to be. Okay, as I said, my experience draws from computer forensics and from investigating the crimes after they have been committed. And it's more or less an autopsy. You're looking at the dead body and you try to find out what went wrong. One of the things that happens, and I think Ian was the one who mentioned it, is that there is a need for forensic investigators and for people who are doing the actual cybersecurity or the policy in a big company to talk together. There is a lack of communication in big corporations, and the more we see incidents like that, the more apparent is that this lack of communication is a big problem. So I believe before we go into everything that has to do with security and technology and all those things, people should start reading a little bit of history. Okay, so history will give us some good examples of how things go wrong. The same things will repeat. So have a look at this and tell me, what do you think those places have in common? These are all 3 fortresses. That's a drawing from Rome, but it's the walls of Rome, the city of Rome. What do you think they all have in common?
Well, they were probably all designed to be impregnable.
Yes, they were, and more or less they were impregnable. What they have in common is that they have all fallen, and they have all fallen the same way. Somebody opened a door. Somebody from the inside opened a door. It only takes one person to do one thing. It doesn't matter if you have 20,000 soldiers. You have 20,000 soldiers outside here, you know. You attack, you're not going to get slaughtered. Well, back then, obviously. Okay. You have someone to open a door during the night. That's it. That's how you do it. You know those people. Well, you cannot see the other one on there. Top right. Yeah. Well, how many people do you recognize here? Who recognizes more than 2 people? Who recognizes everybody on this slide? Okay. Well, probably the guy on the bottom you all know. Okay, Adrian Smales. And you know the corporal on the top, who is now known as Chelsea. But the guy in the middle, Vanunu. Vanunu was a guy who was working for the nuclear program of Israel. He's the one who leaked to the British press that Israel had nuclear weapons. That was the biggest Israeli leak ever. Falciani was a system engineer who was working for HSBC in Switzerland. He leaked 130,000 names and bank accounts of people who had offshore accounts and they were not paying taxes in Britain, in Germany, in France, even in Greece. The list was known as the Lagarde list. Okay, biggest banking leak in history, in one go, just like that. Bradley Manning, biggest US military leak, well, as I said, also known as Chelsea now, and everyone knows Edward Snowden. One person, that's all it takes. There was, what's the name of the guy? Yeah. Yes, it was Cicero, actually, yes. Cicero said that a nation can survive its fools and even its ambitions, but it cannot survive treason from within. And that's true. This is what happens today with businesses. One disgruntled employee, one person who has made, has been given money or made a good offer from someone from the outside. Now, a long, long time ago, there was a new term. It was computer crime. There's a Scottish Law Commission, 1987, report on computer crime. And it says that at the time when the proposal was received by us, so-called computer crime was the subject of intense and frequent media interest. Horror stories abounded concerning vast commercial frauds being perpetrated allegedly by the application of electronic wizardry. That's a government document, right? And fears were raised that outsiders, known as hackers, could with relative ease break into computer networks and cause untold loss and damage. None of this interest has abated in the intervening years, and as recently as of 1986, a large company of insurance brokers expressed the view that computer-assisted fraud and theft will probably cost the UK companies 40 million a year. That was 1987. The same report, categories of misuse: erasure, falsification, obtaining unauthorized access, eavesdropping, unauthorized borrowing of computer disks and tapes. And the last one was denial of access to authorized users. Come on. Yeah. In the memorandum, we described this category as computer misuse as rather speculatively, mainly because we were uncertain whether there is any means of denying people access to computers. This is the state of mind where we come from, and look where we are now. Okay, this is what Imon said about what was in our homes 10 years ago and what is in our homes now. What computers and what devices we used 10 or 20 years ago. And this is where our current legislation comes from. 1987, the estimate cost for computer crime was £40 million. In 2016, today, according to an internet website I found, I converted to today's price, it will be £104 million. The UK government estimate was 27 million, McAfee for the UK estimated 6.8 million, and the Centre for Economics and Business Research estimated for 34 billion, and that includes only the businesses, not private individuals. Now, how we measure cybercrime and how we measure the cost of cybercrime is very relative, is very subjective. It is very difficult, it's actually impossible. So it's a guess, it's a guesstimate. The one thing that remains constant is the trend, and the trend is that it increases. Now, yeah, I said that. So from the 2015 government survey on breaches, which is conducted as it has been the last few years by PricewaterhouseCoopers, 90% of large organizations, 74% of small businesses have had the security breach, which is 81% up from a year ago for the big ones, and 60% up from a year ago for the small ones. More numbers, the cost of cybercrime. So 30% of large businesses and 16%, they believe that they were hit by DDoS attacks last year. Very interesting. We mentioned a few DDoS attacks earlier. A few days ago, I was speaking with someone from Leeds Beckett University, and I went to check their website, and their website was not working. I said, something wrong with your website. It says, we're under a DDoS attack right now. Interesting thing, the home page of the university was down. The page of their their bachelor in computer forensics was up. So even there are attacks that are very, very focused on one thing, and the one thing was just to bring down the home page, apparently. It could have been other reasons, the attack could be, to distract them from something else, I don't know. But it was very interesting that, some of the pages were working and the home page was not. And the number of organizations who had a security or data breach relating to social network sites is 13%, which is more or less what was apparently last year. Now, from the same survey, the biggest problem is this one, the incidents caused by staff. And on average in the UK, it's 43%. Leakage, unauthorized access to systems and loss of confidential information, 41 and 46% respectively. And more information, you can go through these details on the website. You can get my presentation. I have a link to the actual survey, so you can actually go through all the details. Now, here's the thing. This is how many of the respondents had staff-related incidents. And the UK average was 56% of all the incidents. Now, the average for the UK government agencies was 75%, way ahead the country average. And that's the official government numbers. The interesting thing here, Wales, the staff-related incidents were 91%, according to the same survey. Some more interesting points about the survey. There was no information about Scotland, Northern Ireland. There was no information about banks and about the retail industry. However, for some reason, there was information about UK businesses abroad. Okay. As Bill said, it's good. Too bad for the English companies and their reputation. The problem is that, as you see, how you conduct a survey, what do you include, who you include in your survey, okay, affects the results. And you have national results where 2 constituent countries of the United Kingdom are not included. And that's an official survey. The data is there. You can go and play around with the data. You can filter them and see what's included and what's not. The biggest links and the biggest risk will come eventually from the people from the inside. If your perimeter is safe, it will go down only in very extreme situations. The leak from the inside is something that can happen much easier, and it can take many, many different forms. And usually, it's the forms that we don't think of that are the most dangerous. Sometimes, for example, people copy data. And when they copy data, at the time they copy them on their laptop or on their mobile phone, it's a legitimate business process. What happens when that person leaves the company? What happens when that person puts that information on social media? The major leak channels it used to be the theft and the loss of equipment. Remember stories of MI5 laptop found in the tube. And things like that. That is not the main source right now. There is a possibility of having a theft during maintenance. You bring an outsider to fix a problem. If you don't have the way of controlling what they're doing, they might steal information. Bring your own device. That's another plague. It's amazing how many businesses do not block USB drives on their computers. Businesses that are dealing with sensitive information and sensitive stuff. Emails are and will be one of the biggest risks, because emails are meant to include or have attached sensitive information when they go out for business purposes, okay, but also they can become the source of future attacks. There's leaks through browsers, unauthorized posting on websites. Another thing from the previous event, data loss prevention, from all the sources of data loss, 13% was printed material, things that people actually send to the printers and take them out. Now, I'm not going to go on the. I'm not going to have a technical approach on the rest of the presentation, because I think the previous speakers were much better qualified and did a very good job with that. I'm going to talk a little bit about social engineering, and one of the things I'm going to touch is the risk of emails. And the risk of emails that you can collect and use them later on in in your phishing or spear phishing or whaling attack. When you start a phishing attack, you need to have information. You need to have emails. And spear phishing, which is the next step of the development, is more targeted emails. And to get more targeted emails, you need to have a lot more information. And you need to collect and analyze the information before you send out the emails so that you can get a response. Now, collecting targeted email addresses, business email addresses, shouldn't be very easy. The ways of sending out data, with using emails, you can include them as text, you can use them as attachment, you can take screenshots and send the screenshots through your email, blah, blah. Now, as I said before, phishing is, as we all know, an attack where you send out millions of emails to unsuspected recipients and you try to convince them to take an action. Go to a website and put all the personal details or click on something to download malware. These are not very effective. A lot of security software and antivirus software will block many of them. Some will identify the version, the attachments, and someone will find the links as being blocked as unsafe. So the actual effectiveness of those emails is very small. However, spear phishing, which is a more targeted one, has a different return on investment. Up to 91% of those emails will actually prompt a response. 91%, it's amazing. I don't think there is any marketing tool that will actually return 91% of response. And when you go to a website that supposedly is from your bank or from another bank or from your provider, how easy is it to spot if it's the real one or not? So let's have a look at these ones. So do you think that these are two screenshots from two websites? Do you think that any of the two or either